5 hints new Tarantino's movie is a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel. Tarantino's new movie takes place in LA during the 1970s and is about the movie industry, hinting it could be a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel. The title story for Quentin Tarantino's 10th and supposedly final movie have finally been revealed, and certain details hint toward it possibly being a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel. The movie is titled The Movie Critic and will reportedly have a female protagonist. It has been speculated that the character will be based on celebrated film critic Pauline Kael, somebody that Tarantino has spoken fondly of over the decades. Those same elements also hint at something more, as the in development movie shares a lot of connective tissues with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, hinting that it could be a sequel. Number 5. The Movie Critic is set shortly after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the second half of Tarantino's filmmaking career. His films have all been period pieces, whether it be 1941 in Inglourious Basterds, 1858 in Django Unchained, or 1877 in The Hateful Eight. In the Tarantino movie universe timeline, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is set during 1969, as it is based around the Manson family and the murders of Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring. Though the exact year is not yet clear, The Movie Critic is set during the 1970s, not long after the final scene of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which takes place on August 9, 1969. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like and share our videos if you find them interesting. Number 4. The Movie Critic has the same setting as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Though Quentin Tarantino's earlier movies like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are not set in any specific or important location, his later films' locations are tied closely to their narratives. From Nazi-occupied France to the pre-Civil War Deep South, these settings are quintessential to their respective plots. It comes as no surprise that The Movie Critics will be set in Los Angeles. That is obviously the same setting as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a movie where LA was almost a character itself, as the whole of Hollywood Boulevard was transformed into 1960s Tinseltown with storefronts facets. The Movie Critics could revisit the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood LA locations. Number 3. The Movie Critic is set in the same industry as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Given the name of the upcoming movie, Tarantino's final film will obviously be set in the film industry. It has also been speculated that the main character is based on Pauline Kael, who was a popular film critic in the 1970s. As movie critics are often invited to sets to report on movies being made, the protagonist of The Movie Critic could even visit the fictional movie sets from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Maybe she could have been invited on the scene of The Green Hornet, the very day Cliff Booth and Bruce Lee locked horns. Number 2. Quentin Tarantino has spoken about many Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spin-offs. There are always more stories to Tarantino's world than what makes the final cut of his movies. For Once Upon a Time in Hollywood alone, hours of footage were edited out of the final cut, and Tarantino wrote a whole book of other events taking place before and during the movie. While Tarantino has many unrealized projects that will never come to fruition, he has a long list of planned Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spin-offs, including the Bounty Law television series and the Cliff Booth World War II project. The Movie Critic would be a vessel for all of them. Number 1. All of Quentin Tarantino's movies are already connected. All of Quentin Tarantino's movies make up a shared Tarantino universe, meaning all of his movies are connected. Whether it is character from his period movies being related to characters in his more modern movies, or Red Apple cigarettes and Big Kaoma burger frequently popping up, Tarantino has created a huge cinematic universe. In that respect, there will undoubtedly be a reference to the events of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and its characters in some capacity. Still, the movie critic would take that link a step further and become Tarantino's first ever true sequel, ironic given that it would also be his very last film.